Morning, YouTube. Terry here. Saturday morning, coming to you from my grotto. Sun's up, snow is melting, still cold. There's warming and then there's freezing. But we're getting out of this frost. I wanted to do a video for my experience as a beginner, from my beginning of smoking, and some tips for beginners. Now, I don't profess to be any expert by any means. Been smoking for 3 years, but saw many reviews on tobaccos and pipes and whatnot, and it comes to my mind that the review sometimes mentions, either reading it or listening to it. Some people will include room note, but from the early decades to now, lifestyle change. Smoking is shunned upon. Very few of us will smoke in the house. And if you do get to smoke in the house, well, lucky for you. And I think that's, in the 50s or whatnot, you're smoking those codger blends and whatnot, you might encounter, guests or households are coming in, and room note might play a critical factor whether you should continue to smoke this blend of tobacco, because it affects people around you. But these days, a lot of us smoke in the shed, in the backyards, outdoors. We don't have the luxury to smoke in the house. So room note really is a little bit relevant, less relevant. I'm not saying it's irrelevant. It's less relevant in the review than the past. That's just my opinion. What's more important is how I perceive, because this hobby is for me. So what do I look for in a blend? So for me, there are 3 things. So when you smoke a pipe, we talk about the taste, but there's many ways to taste. There's the taste of by your tongue, and then the olfactories in your nose, and there's different ways to smell that. So tongue-wise, the mouthfeel and the sweetness and the sourness, that's tasted through the taste buds. So in Virginia, I usually concentrate more on the sides of the tongues and the overall taste. If I can taste some sweetness or the sourness in the Virginias. Then there is the retrohale. Retrohale comes in to be very important in tasting Parisian Latakias. And some people say they taste the sourness in the Perique. I haven't picked that up, but I do taste the uniqueness of the Perique, the pepperiness, the tingling in the nose. So that's more in the retrohale. And that took me a while to understand the nuances between the flavors of Perique and the flavors of the, say, the Orientals. And that, I drink a lot of tea, and one of the ways to enjoy tea is the retrohale. The taste is very important, because if you let a tea sit for too long, a brew for too long, it becomes bitter, and that's through the mouth, right? But the retrohale is very important, picking up the nuances. And of course, the actual aroma in the tea that you smell directly, it's very important, whether it's flowery, fragrant, incensey, whatnot. And you can, sweetness also comes through, like smelling a chocolate. You can say, this is a sweet chocolate, but this is a dark chocolate, it's a little bitter. So those are interconnected. And then there's the side smoke. That's the direct smelling. Well, when you smoke a tobacco, you don't want to take a whiff, because if you're not a smoker, a cigarette smoker, then it irritates your lungs and your throat and whatnot. And that is one of the reasons why I don't like Burley, because it reminds me of the cigarette, which I don't like. So I would say side smoke, that little bit of smoke that you smell when the billow of the smoke, comes around. And that you can smell the sweetness or the smokiness, the campfire, right? Would you taste campfire in the tongue? Not really. That is the side smoke that you will smell in the latakias, for instance. So that comes into play very importantly when you're trying to discern the latakias. So when I enjoy a tobacco, those are the three areas: the side smoke, whether the side smoke is more ashy, cigarette-y, or is a campfire-ish, barbecue-y, versus the direct taste, whether it's the acidity, the acid, the acrid, the tobacco taste type of profile, and then the retrohale, whether it's the pepperiness. Of course, the pepperiness also, you can pick it up in your tongue. The spiciness, the Orientals gives some Orientals in certain types gives me a burn my taste buds really bad. And the sourness and the sweetness of the Virginias. So that's how I enjoy and discern the blends. And of course, I'm still trying to learn from it, fine tune it. So again, it's a lifelong experience. Certain pipes, if it's bad pipe, not a good smoker, that the fresh, crispy Englishes become stale and musty and whatnot. And some tobacco, some people like the NSC profile. Not necessarily. I don't think they put NSC toppings in it necessarily, but it somehow pushes that fragrant Oriental, incensey, the soapy, and somehow it crosses over to the licoricey NSC. Some people like it. I don't enjoy it. I like licorice as a candy directly, but in the tobacco somehow I don't think it's the nicotine content, but it just makes me. It ticks off the nauseating sensors in me. It just doesn't agree with me for some reason. So I'm still trying to learn how to handle that aspects of it. So that's a chemistry difference between certain people's reaction towards certain chemicals in the tobacco. Some people like Burleys, some people like Virginias, some people like Latakia Englishes. It all depends on the person. But to learn the nuances, to learn the differences, and how to pick up certain blends through those three senses, I think is what I'm learning now in my experience. So I hope that's a little bit of help to people trying to figure out the mystery of tobacco pipe smoking, and hope you get something out of that. And with that, thanks for listening, and I'll talk to you next time. Thanks for watching.